Hi, I'm Mike, and today I'm going to be going over the Titan pulley system. Basically these parts right here, this guy, that guy back there, and this lower pulley down here, as well as a loading pin. That's the actual thing that holds the weights. This system consists of actually three of their products. The upper pulley system consists of this pulley, that pulley, and the cable here. Got the lower pulley system, which includes the pulley itself and a separate cable that runs down and connects to this guy, and then the actual loading pin itself. I'm going to go over what I like, what I don't like about it, the quality of it, and basically if it's worth it. I believe that this setup here is $50. This one's about $35 for the lower pulley, and the loading pin itself is like $20. So it's not too much, but it gives you a lot of versatility on different racks. This one's made for the Titan T2 rack, which is a 2x2 rack. I've got a TDS rack, which is also a 2x2. It does fit this. You do have to modify it a little bit by drilling out the holes itself, but I'll go over that in more detail in a second here. But besides that, let's get a closer look at this. Okay, here's a closer look of the actual pulley system itself. This is the top pulley. You kind of look at the quality. It's not bad. It supposedly supposed to hold about 400 pounds. The pulleys themselves, they're smooth now, but honestly, I don't think it's going to last very long. You could buy these pulleys separately, not necessarily through Titan, but through a different company, much smoother, better bearings in them. But that's the top pulley. There's the bottom guy itself. The hardware that it comes with is actually 1/2-inch hardware, which is actually much bigger than the TDS rack itself, which is very nice. It's actually built pretty well. This is a TDS rack, so I had to drill out horizontally on this guy because you could actually set these pulleys up at different angles. I had to set it up this way because I only have 7'1" to the top, and this is literally 1/2 inch short of 7 feet. So it barely fits in my basement, but if you have a 7-foot ceiling, you should be able to fit it just fine. Here's the other pulley. This is the one that extends out into the rack itself. Even on Titan's website, they've got their pulleys set up differently in different pictures. So you could set this up however you want. I personally want to keep this as high as possible and keep everything outside the rack because I want to make sure that the entire inside of my rack is usable. I'm 6'7", and my head comes very close to that, but if I could fit in here, you could fit in here without an issue. You kind of see I've got a little clamp here. This is normally holding this down, so when I have an attachment here, it doesn't pull the cable out. I've also got it tucked into the back here, out of the way when I'm not using it. I'll show you a couple instances of it actually in use. Here's the loading pin. You definitely do need this to obviously load up your weights. This is a standard 45, so if you've got some weird size 45 plates, it comes insanely close to this bottom part here, so be careful with that. I'm actually going to grab a tape measure and I'll tell you how wide the 45 is. So it sells about 17.5 inches, and I probably got about 1.5 inches space between it and the frame itself. So just be cautious of that to see what kind of plates that you have, because when this thing's going up and down, it does swing a little bit, and I have bumped that, and obviously it's a little scratched up, but it's not going to harm anything. With this system, you can basically do anything with it besides flies, but you can do tricep kickbacks and tricep work off of the top pulley. The bottom pulley, you'd be able to do bicep work. You could actually sit down and do rows with it. I'll show you in a couple cuts here of a few different options, as well as a lat pull down. So if you were thinking about getting a separate lat machine, don't. This works perfect, especially if you have safety bars here. You could actually use that to support you, to hold your knees down. So I actually found a use for these squat rack pads. You could actually tuck your knees under there and use this as a lat pull down. Like I said, it does support 400 pounds supposedly. I don't think I'm going to be doing 400-pound pulley work, but it is there if you do need it. All right, so here is the actual complete setup. Got your loading pin here. I actually bought a couple more of these little clips or the carabiners just to put on all the different attachments, but cable comes up over the pulley itself, over the top of the rack, over this pulley. So there really isn't anything holding this pulley on besides gravity. You'll learn to not allow the weights to fly up because once it falls off once, you'll be careful about that. So this is the top pulley section. That's what you get with the top pulley system itself. The bottom pulley actually consists of this cable all the way down here to this bottom pulley, and then it comes with a carabiner as well. The attachments themselves do not come with it, so you do have to buy those separately. These are actually Titan products here, which are pretty nice for what they are. But as you can see, that is the complete setup. So as you can see, it's a pretty nice system for what it is. If you are looking for buying a separate cable system, they are going to give you a little bit more versatility, I think, especially if it's a two tower cable system where you can actually do flies. But if you're limited to space, this really takes up no extra room besides using your rack itself, and you just have these little attachments onto it. So the only downside is it does take a little time to swap out weights itself, because you gotta undo the pin, put the weights on, and put it back up. But the nice thing about this is if you actually have a 45 there, instead of putting them on the pin itself, you could actually just stack them right on the side there and just keep adding your smaller weights to it, and it stays balanced and nothing falls off. But that's just a nice quick way if you're doing drop sets or something along those lines. You can start pulling off weights, just got to make sure that it's balanced. Is it worth it? Definitely. For the under $100 or whatever it is, I've got myself a lat machine, row, tricep. I can do whatever I want. This entire rack will allow me to do everything besides flies, but I've got a bench and separate weights for that. So if you've got any questions, drop them down in the comments. I'll be glad to answer them, and thanks for watching.